Good evening, good evening. This is Commissar here, and again another game between Liquid Hero and TSL Hyun. TSL Hyun, the red Zerg in the bottom right hand side of the map, taking out game 1 in convincing fashion. Hero, of course, in the top right, losing just because basically he didn't manage to achieve anything throughout the entirety of the game. And what I mean by that is, of course, his one attempt to do some economic damage didn't actually even really begin properly. It just sort of saw him realizing that he wouldn't do damage and then going back to base. And by not being able to push again straight away, his build didn't really allow him to do so. He wasn't actually able to do anything about Hyun's early macro, and Hyun was basically able to get to the point where he can basically mass and pour in infinite roaches into the base of his opponent. And infinite roaches is a little bit hard to stop off 2 base with, what, Sentry Immortal? Which is a good composition against roaches, yes, but apparently it's not always enough, especially if you do not have any ramps to defend, and if the concaves go against you. Of course, you'll notice that with a ton of force fields last game, Hero was still unable to basically do anything to the army of his opponent, because really he just didn't have the positioning that he needed on the sentries, on the force fields, to be able to actually make them split up or block out a chunk of the army of his opponent. And he tried, but down in the open at the bottom of his ramp, in an open area, he couldn't do it. Concave favored his opponent, and numbers favored his opponent, so it was just a bit of a mess. Okay, so we do see this probe just poking around, being a little bit annoying. Scouts the pull before hatchery. But at the same time, I believe Hero is not going to go for the Nexus first this game. He did get it safely last game, but of course there is a much bigger ramp this time, I believe. Yeah, it's a bigger ramp, a bit harder to defend this ramp, it's hard to wall off, it takes some time. As such, it does help to get out an earlier cannon to stop a bunch of lings just pouring into your base at the start of the game. And you'll notice a lot of players actually do prefer to make walls directly at the base of this ramp, just basically to make sure that they're safe from any sort of big early ling run-by attempts, that sort of thing. So yeah, you'll even notice pounds being used in the wall in order to make it walled off faster. And we will just see a cannon before gateway even. So yeah, a very conservative start from Hero, and he will safely secure this natural expansion with a slightly delayed gateway. Okay, meanwhile we do see what lings pouring out. Very, very low numbers, I believe 2 of them in total, just to get a little bit of map vision, chase away this probe, and that's about it. Meanwhile, you will see, oh, Hero getting a nice block in there. That is probably going to, well, maybe not force extra lings, just probably just delay this expansion for a little bit. Not for very long, as you can see, probably going to be cancelled this pound, as it will not buy much more time by being allowed to complete, and it will indeed not be cancelled. As such, TSL Hyun, though, will still have a second base up right about now, and his third base will not be very late at all, still within the 5-minute mark, still a great time to be on 3 bases. Or at least to start the third base, rather. Okay, so the gateway is now up, the gas are now up at about the same time, Cybercore's about to go down, and then we'll see the wall-in of Hero being very safe indeed, especially when that one Zealot gets out, and even putting his probe not in position to block any lings. But he doesn't have any map vision either, so he may want to get that in order to make sure that it is safe to be doing basically anything without having to worry about this wall-in. But really, Zealot's about to be done, no big issues. Okay, so looking at the base of Hyun, we do see another drone going out, and I'm curious if he's going to go for a quick 4th base. It appears that he is not. That makes sense. I was going to say that it's going to be very surprising if he did, but just transferring very long distance. And to be honest, if he wasn't saturated as main, I would hate this, but he is saturated as his main, and that is why it makes perfect sense to be doing what he is doing in that transfer. Okay, so looking at the base of Hero, no +1 started yet. He can afford it though, so perhaps not going to be relying on any sort of upgrade heavy +2 timing, but rather a Stargate opening. And boy oh boy, it's actually been a long time since I've seen this in PvZ. It used to be super, super, super common. And I have watched a bunch of live streams lately. I've watched a lot of tournaments, even though I haven't played Starcraft or casted it for quite some time. I've still seen a bunch of tournaments, and really, this kind of play, while not unheard of, certainly no, it's still certainly viable in every Protoss player's arsenal. It's just not super, super common at the moment, and yeah, I'm kind of happy to see it coming out. Why? Because I kind of like Phoenixes. Voiders are kind of cool too, but Phoenixes I think are quite nice to see. And Hyun has how many queens? I believe only one at each base. Yes, one at each base. And that will not be enough if Phoenixes and Void Rays do indeed take him by surprise. The Void Ray though may be used to pick off Overlords, in which case Hyun should be okay at his base to defend. We'll have to see Hyun's cam, and does he see the Stargate? No, he doesn't. He does though see 2 Zealots and a Stalker pushing into his base, at his 3rd base actually. And they will be killed. A couple of drones that may die. It looks like they will not actually. What? 1 worker going down? Not a big deal whatsoever. So nice defense there by Hyun. Of course, the commitment by Hero was tiny. Units lost tab actually favoring Hyun after that. And it looks like he will lose the Stalker, perhaps unnecessarily, although no speed is done quite yet for the Lings, and as such, it will get away. It looks like speed is not going to be on the way either, with Roaches already coming out onto the field 9 at a time at the start. Or at least an initial wave of 9, and the layer tech is also on the way. Of course, no layer tech yet. I don't believe there are Evo chambers either, in which case the Stargate play could be very effective. There's the Evo chamber, and you'll see the Void Ray has already revealed itself by killing a couple of Overlords, I believe. So yep, we do see 2 queens at the natural now, so basically by killing Overlords, like I said, Hero's given his opponent time to prepare for these Void Rays for this air play, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to avoid Overlords when they're so well positioned to scout this sort of thing. So well done to Hyun for doing this, and at the same time, Hero is doing just fine. Hasn't lost a Void Ray yet, has dealt a bit of damage, and just needs to hope that he can do some sort of further damage in the base of his opponent. We can see Hero going out to secure his 3rd base, of course, vital to knock this wall down to defend this 3rd base, otherwise it is so open to attacks, so hard to defend without knocking down these rocks. And of course, a simple wall at the top makes it almost impregnable against any sort of Ling counterattacks, or that sort of thing. Meanwhile, we do see the Void Rays continuing to apply pressure unsuccessfully so far, but here's 1 liftoff, could perhaps get a 2nd liftoff right about now, and a 3rd one. We do have quite a few Phoenixes on the sky, 3 actually, and this Void Ray is going to have to just bide its time and wait. Meanwhile though, 3 queens will all die thanks to this Phoenix support. Now the 2nd Void Ray being brought back into the fight, and suddenly the air defense of Hyun is limited to nothing but Spore Crawlers, and of course Spore Crawlers are quite good units. This Phoenix may actually die here, and it will not. Taking quite a bit of damage, perhaps a bit unnecessarily high amounts of damage. Not a big deal. What is a big deal is this push over here. And how much damage will it do, as it looks like Hero is going to be pulling back to defend here, with his Phoenixes getting a bit of map vision. He has basically decided he cannot push further forward due to the Spore Crawlers here. And meanwhile though, at the main base, a brilliant force field separating the army in half almost exactly. All these Roaches being trapped outside, and as a result, an easy hold for Hero. Hyun scouts the 3rd base, but so what? He cannot deny it now. It's going to be established very safely indeed. So Hero getting off to a very good start this game, and despite this 4th base of Hyun, Hero is looking in good shape. At the same time though, Hyun is not looking in bad shape. The 4th base of course is looking quite nice for him. The big question though is, how will he what will he be able to do going forward? He is behind in supply, he's behind in army. His economy though, his economy is about even. So really, Hero is ahead at this stage, yes. And that frame rate drop is awful. There we go. And yeah, so sure, Hyun is definitely behind. But at the same time, he's doing okay, and these Hydras are so crucial here. Can the Phoenixes kill them or not? This is a very important battle, and out of energy, the Phoenixes do all escape, I believe. So these Hydras being dominated, and without significant Hydra numbers, this air is going to continue to dominate this game. Units Hustab really tells the story of a successful airplay, and that is losing hardly anything of your own, and killing a ton of Zerg stuff. Meanwhile, of course, the Colossi are about to pour out, and are about to see Hydras versus Colossi in a few minutes, I believe. And of course, we all know that Hydras generally suck. Of course, they're great against air, that is about it. 1 Void Ray going down to Hydras just as I say that. Meanwhile, of course, the Colossi do just demolish Hydras. As do most things in this game, because they are so slow. Being fixed in Heart of the Swarm though, so that's going to be pretty exciting for any Zerg players out there. Okay, so we do indeed see the Spire down for Hyun. The problem for him though, he's had to produce so much stuff. Stuff mostly being Hydras at the moment, that his gas count is actually pretty low for this stage in the game. No money saved up for any big balls of mutas or anything. Mutas of course suck against phoenixes anyway, so it's kind of hard to get mutas in low numbers. You kind of need quite a lot before enough for them to actually not be afraid of the phoenixes anymore. But yeah, in general this spy is just going to be really slow at getting out any sort of air force. Okay, so Hyun even going to lose next to green here. Basically here just doing a ton of damage. Despite this though, we do see 4 bases mining strongly for TSL Hyun. Almost 80 drones, but of course Hero in about the same spot himself, and Hero has the tech advantage, has the army advantage, still ahead by 30 supply, and I'm just waiting for that big push to come from Hero, because of course if Hyun does hold, the eventual push that Hero will indeed deliver in a couple of minutes when the Colossus count gets up a little bit, then Hyun will be great. He's starting to get the tech up. He has 90 corruptors on the way right now, so he's certainly going to try and counter those Colossi and those air units very nicely, and he will succeed in doing that. Of course, the big question though is what? Even if he kills the Colossi, even if he kills the Phoenixes, can he kill the sheer weight of numbers on the ground? And is this commitment to corruptors going to leave his ground army so small that Hyun cannot actually take on the ground force of Hero? And I believe that may be what we will see in a few minutes time. We'll have to wait and see of course though. Upgrades looking pretty okay, not the best for Hyun. He's at 1-0 compared to the 1-1 of Hyun, of Hero, sorry. We're about to see 2-0, so upgrades are about to be evened out. About to see +1 on the Mutalisks and Corruptors too, assuming that Mutas are made. Corruptors only at the moment will be getting that +1 attack upgrade. And yeah, at the moment just way too few roaches, and just generally too few of everything except Corruptors for Hyun. And as such he's going to be in a little bit of trouble. The bottleneck sucks for Hero, but really, who really cares? Meanwhile, the Phoenix count has been whittled down. Hyun is now maxed, but he is maxed on such weak units. I don't know if it'll matter here as Hero has such a superior army composition here. Here comes the big push in by Hyun. The Hydras, of course, in the back going to be the main damage dealers here. The Colossi are down, allowing the Hydras to basically have free reign over the battlefield. And oh, it looks like Hyun is going to back up a bit, regroup, and without Colossi actually being enforced, the Hydras will be very powerful. Despite this though, we still have very high sentry count, very high energy count, but in an open field yet again like last game, hard to get those good force fields off. Pretty decent force fields in the end, and it looks like Hero should have enough to hold without too much trouble here. The question is, can he deal with the remaxing of Hyun, as the remaxing is going to be a big issue. It looks like Hydras though off creep are struggling to retreat, cannot get out of here, and as such Hyun's entire army will be mopped up thanks to some great blink micro by Hero, taking out every single Hydra, even going to kill out a few more Corruptors. Reinforcing Hydra is just going to die straight away, and yep, Hero, like I thought, is going to be holding very easily. Now applying counter pressure here, roaches are needed for Hyun, but with Blink Stalkers, it's so hard to hold, and of course 4 Immortals are going to make it all the more difficult, all the more horrible for Hyun, and I believe he'll just have to GG in a sec here, because really he has no answer to this, nor should he. He was too far behind, and despite being able to kill the Colossi, the Hydras just are not good enough against Blink Stalkers. Stalkers, they dominate normally, but yeah, Blink Stalkers is a different story altogether. Although 1 Stalker versus 1 Hydra is an even fight, you may notice, but yeah, the game's over by this point. I'm not even too interested in what happens for Hyun from now on, and there is the GG. Okay, so pretty decent game. Really Hero doing a great job with that Phoenix player, and that is why I will just note right now, a ton of Zerg players these days, most Zerg players, I'd even say most here, like to get a ton of Queens out. Why? I mean, when I say a ton, I mean say 1 for each base plus say 2, so they spread creep really fast. You can see the creep spread of Hyun was okay, it was fine, it was pretty good, but it was fairly slow. So creep spread could be faster with extra Queens, and of course, surprise Stargates do not dominate you. When I say dominate you, of course, it did damage. It didn't kill a bunch of workers. What it did do though was it kept Hyun from attacking. You can see his small roach force was divided up, and really, perhaps even more significant than the early airplay was also this defense over here at the 3rd base. Hero just being able to split off the army of Hyun in 2, demolish every single unit, and as such have a big army lead, a big unit slush tab lead. The air couldn't be killed by the army. having no army basically meant that Hyun had to go Hydras. Having to go Hydras means you're vulnerable to Colossi. The answer's Corruptors. Corruptors can't kill Immortals and Blinkstalkers. And yeah, just too much stuff for Hyun to deal with in the end. And hence he lost. So it was a fun game. We are now at 1 game per player. And there is a final game to cast for between these 2 players, which I'll move on to in just a moment. Thank you for watching this thus far.